right, election fever starting to hit, really. Joining me live is the Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor. How are you? Thanks for joining me.
Good to be with you, Andrew.
Most important question of the day, I think. Will the Coalition support the funding announcement by the government on bulk billing this morning?
Well, Andrew, the important point here to start with is that this is necessary because of Labor's abject failure when it comes to health. What we have seen is a collapse in bulk billing rates from 88% when we were in government to 77%. A 45% increase in out-of-pockets being paid by people when they go to the doctor. 40 million bulk billing sessions that have disappeared since we were in government. And so people are feeling this because of Labor's failure. Their homegrown inflation
Is that a yes?
Well, I'll come to that. Their homegrown inflation has extended to health. Now, we're not going to get in the way of Labor cleaning up the mess that it has made. And it's important that that mess be cleaned up. What should have happened is we should have kept the gains or the benefits that we'd had when we were in government, that higher level of bulk billing, that lower level of out-of-pockets. But Labor's failed again. I mean, in sector after sector after sector, we see their failures.
Wow, I must admit I'm surprised. I mean, I thought the whole thing from you and Peter Dutton was fiscal restraints to go. We're going to spend a lot less. Here they are splashing all this cash to try and get re-elected, and you're saying, yeah, well, we're not going to stand in the way of that.
Well, we've opposed over $100 billion of unnecessary Labor spending in this term of Parliament, Andrew. There's no shortage of areas where we've said Labor spending is not appropriate. And there's a whole lot of frolics Labor's gone on, adding 36,000 Canberra-based public servants, investing in so-called manufacturing projects that are not in manufacturing whatsoever. We've said no to all of those things. But Labor has absolutely failed when it's come to delivering affordable health for Australians and getting access to the doctor, which is a huge challenge.
So you're saying they're just playing catch-up?
Well, they're playing catch-up. I mean, getting back to the numbers they're talking about is getting back to the numbers that we achieved when we were in government. And so this is Labor's failure. And this is how they fix it. I think there's a big question for them is where's the money going to come from, and we will work through that over the next little while. But I tell you what, we'll continue to oppose bad Labor spending proposals as we have throughout this term of Parliament.
This is a cost of living promise and leads to an inevitable question I keep asking for which there isn't a clear response from the opposition. Is it your and Peter Dutton's intention to promise further tax cuts at the election?
Well, we've already promised important tax reform over the past year or so. I mean, we have said that small business in particular needs to be put back in a place
where it can survive tax cuts,
and prosper. Well, we'll see what money's left. I mean, and this is the real challenge right now.
Well, you're just giving away $500 billion today.
Well, let's be clear, Andrew. We've opposed over $100 billion of unnecessary Labor government spending. Show me an opposition in recent history that has done that. You have to go back to Malcolm Fraser, who blocked supply. And
are you not going to promise income tax cuts? Well, after suggesting you would give some of the stage 3 back.
We will always look to reduce taxes. We won't be imposing unrealised capital gains tax on hard-working Australians, farmers and small business people who shouldn't be paying those taxes. We will be delivering accelerated depreciation to small businesses where we're seeing record levels of insolvencies.
Will you be promising income tax cuts?
Well, I'm not going to give you our election policies today, Andrew. I know you're going to ask me all morning, or for as long as we go through this interview to give you. But I'm not going to go through all of our election policies today. But what I will say is that we'll continue to manage Australians' tax revenues, the revenues we get from Australians, very carefully, as we have during this Parliament, as we've opposed over $100 billion of our Labor spending.
This health promise, can you see a lot more examples of this, maybe even on both sides, where someone promises something and in such a tight election race, the other side immediately says, me too?
I mean, this is cleaning up Labor's mess. I mean, we had bulk billing rates at 88% when we were in government. It's now down at 77%, and they're talking about taking it back to close to where it was when we were in government. I mean, this is all Labor is doing, is fixing their mess from their homegrown inflation, from their failures when it comes to health, and their failures when it comes to...
When was it at 88%?
When we were in government.
Well, in 2014 it was 82.5, then it was 84, then in 2019 it was 86.
It got up, it peaked at 88%.
Do you know when?
I haven't got the date in front of me, but it peaked at 88%.
But it was sort of 82.5 in 2014.
Yeah, and we increased it over the time we were in government. And this is exactly the point, Andrew, is Labor has failed on this. In the course of 2.5 years, they've taken it down to 77%. And we have seen Australians having to pay more in out-of-pockets, 45% increase in out-of-pockets. We've seen 40 million bulk billing sessions that have disappeared. And all Labor is doing is trying to get back to where it was when we were in government.
I'll tell you what else they're doing. They're bringing back something that's 10 years old, that infamous 2014 budget, where Peter Dutton was Health Minister and the government suggested at the time a co-payment, $5, $7, whatever it was, on every doctor's visit. Are you
suggesting that Labor is playing politics with this?
All I'm saying is, are you concerned that could hurt you, that narrative?
Well, I tell you what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the standard of living of Australians, Andrew, that has collapsed and unprecedented, unparalleled. We've never seen a collapse in Australian standard of living like we've seen in the last 2.5 years. Health has been part of that, but it's also been energy, it's been insurance, it's been increased personal income taxes being paid.
It's pretty bad. But what about when there were 17% interest rates and 11% unemployment?
Well,
that was a bit of a collapse in living standards.
Can I correct you on this? And this is incredibly important. The data goes right back to the 50s. We have never seen a collapse in real disposable income per person in Australia like we have seen in the last 2.5 years. Never. And I should add to that, no other peer country has seen this collapse in standard of living. That's what Labor has done to Australians. We simply can't afford another 3 years of this.